Hey, this is Thursday, October 24th, year of our Lord 2019, pre-algebra, the day before the first test of the second quarter. Here we go. Number one. Listen up. We got to move quickly if you're going to get done with most of today's actions so that I can see that you're on the right track for success tomorrow. Did you understand the question? List two pairs of inverse operations. It was as simple as this. Multiplication and division. And then it says, explain why they're called inverse, because one undoes the other. If you have something added, how do you undo it? Subtract it. Do the opposite. Inverse. Yes, that's what she said. Number two, how can two inequalities be equal? This was a tough one. What'd you come up with? How can two inequalities be equivalent? Anybody got an answer? Did you try something? Yes.
If one's like closer and one's greater than.
No. What they were looking for was two inequalities can be equivalent if their solutions are the same. Like you've got two inequalities, x has to be greater than 6, and then another inequality could end up being x has to be greater than 6. That kind of question won't be on. That kind of question won't be on the test. Number three, two equations that have the same solution are equivalent equations. And number four, a blank is a statement formed by placing an inequality symbol between two expressions.
Equation.
No, it's not an equation if you're placing an inequality between them.
No, solution of inequality.
It's an inequality. Those kind of confusing questions won't be on the test, Winterstar. Are you happy?
Yes.
Okay, now let's get into solving. Number 5, you should have gotten 32. Number 6, you should have gotten 16. Number 7, you should have gotten 15.
Yes.
Number 8, the answer should have been 9.
Yes.
Number 9, the answer should have been 40.
Yes.
Number 10, the answer should have been negative 161. How many of the first 6 that we just went over, you've got at least 5 right? Solving.
I have 6 right.
Number 6 was 16. Number 11, 1,288.
Yes.
Positive 1288.
Yes.
Number 12, 4 sevenths. Positive 4 sevenths.
Yes.
Number 13, negative 3. Number 14, 7. Number 15, 2.4. Fractions and decimals don't bother you. They are numbers too, right? And number 16, positive 12. So out of those 12, how many got at least 10 right? This is pretty good. Pretty good response so far. Ready for tomorrow's test. You rent an all-terrain vehicle that has 5/8 of a tank of fuel. When you're done riding, there's 3/8 of a tank left. You're supposed to write an equation that tells you how much is left, or how much you used. Again, sounds confusing, but it's as simple as this. You start with, you had 5/8. You don't know, well, you do because you can do it quickly in your head, right? What you don't know yet is how much you used. So you start with 5/8, and you don't know what you used, so what's that phrase Mr. Franklin always writes? Let X equal amount used. Okay? You start with 5/8 of a tank. Am I going to add or subtract what I used?
Subtract.
So I'm going to subtract X. What's left in the tank? 3/8. So you see, okay, so if that was confusing for you, which I agree, when I was in your shoes, I'm reading something like that, I'm like, what are they talking about? Okay? You had 5/8 when you got it. This is the hard part. What don't I know? What do they want to know that I don't know right now? They want to know how much I used. They told me how much is left, so it's a subtraction problem. Starting with 5/8, I'm going to take away what I used. They told me what I'm going to have left. Does that make more sense now? How do I get rid of the 5/8? No. How do I get rid of the 5/8? Oh, it's not a negative 5/8. It's a positive 5/8. How do I get rid of the 5/8? No, I'm waiting for Kara because she said add. How do you get rid of a positive? Subtract. So I'm going to subtract 5/8. I get rid of it on that side. If I go over here and subtract 5/8, what's 3/8 minus 5/8? Negative 2/8. Okay, so I'm still a little bit confused because I don't like this negative sign out here, right? How can I change that? What's the simplest way to change that? I can multiply both sides of this equation by a small number, not 1, because that'll still stay negative. Negative 1. If I wanted to know what positive x was, I would multiply negative 1 times negative 1x, positive x. Negative 2/8 times negative 1, positive 2/8. Of course, you always put fractions in the simplest form. So you used 1/4 of a tank. Good job. Number 18. You should have gotten 654 students.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody figure out how you got that?
Yeah,
I multiplied.
What?
You multiply by 3.
Well, the reason you multiply it by 3 is because you don't know. What you don't know is how many students attend the college, right? So you know what you do? You go, make sure I got this right. You go 1/3 of the students equals 215. How do you get rid of 1/3? Multiply by 3. Right? Because when you divide by 1/3, you're actually multiplying by 3/1. Let's do that again. This is algebraically how you would set up number 18. You don't know how many students. You do know that 1/3 of those students is 215. That's how it's set up. How do I get rid of 1/3? I always divide by what they multiply by, right? Now here's the key, Kara. I have to remember that when I divide by 1/3, I'm actually multiplying by 3/1. That gets rid of the x. 215 times 3 is 645. So far what I'm reading is, from your eyes and minds, and if I didn't do my homework, I would be like, I'm going to be on my best behavior this whole class. What I'm reading is, you're pretty comfortable with solving it if the equation's there, not quite comfortable yet with translating, right? Okay. If that's the case, you're going to do well on the test. Does that make sense? Most of the test is going to be solving, finding solutions, right?
Good.
You seem to do well in that section so far. You might not get a high A, because if there is going to be, you got I have to put at least 1 or 2 of those on there. So, but if you're really good so far at solving, you'll get there as far as the translating goes. Yeah.
So how is 1/3 times?
How's 1/3 times 3 1?
No,
How did I get here to 1x?
no. How is 1/3 times 645?
It's not. It's times 3, dear.
No, like the actual solution.
Oh, so if I checked it,
Yeah.
1/3 of 645. Cross cancel. 6 plus 4 plus 5 is 15. 3 goes into 15. So 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into that. 215 times.
Yeah.
All right? All right, number 19 through 24. 9. Amen?
Yeah.
3.
Amen.
Negative 5.
Yeah.
Negative 4.
Yeah.
27?
Yeah.
1.4.
Yeah, I got all those wrong.
All right, get to work. You still have 26 minutes. The goal is, listen, it's homework, but the goal is that as you work through page 153, here am I. If you have a question, hey, Mr. Franken, I'm not real sure about number 26. Could you do that on the board? Yeah. Now, the only thing is, Isaac, you can't sit there, especially if you didn't do your homework today, that you can't sit there and expect me to do them all for you. Yeah.
Can you explain number 19?
You know what's interesting, Isaac, is that is literally out there in cyberspace now. I just realized I'm on video. The whole world could possibly know that Isaac Richards didn't do his homework. What'd you say, Noah?
Can you do number 19? Because I got all those wrong after 19.
So you got 19 through 24 wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, but you got 5 through 16. You did pretty good.
What's that for 16? Yeah, I got nothing
Huh.
wrong.
All right. Number 19. Did you get that wrong?
What?
You got 19 wrong?
Yeah.
All right. 2p minus 5 equals 13.
Okay, what are we doing? 25?
53.
Yeah, I just might have done that with wrong step.
Noah, how do you undo -5?
You time, or you add the opposite.
Okay. Shh. Okay. You've got to stop saying that. Okay? You're conflicting. You're trying to do something that you do in another place in this place, and that cost you last time. How do you undo -5? What's the opposite of -5? Just say what the opposite. Okay. You're confusing two different things. How do you undo -5? You add 5. Think of it like this, Noah. I start with 2p, and I take away 5. How do I undo that? Let's say you started with, how old are you?
12.
Okay, let's say you were 12, and I said, hey, let's subtract 5 from your age. What are you now?
7.
And then I add 5 back.
12.
You're back to where you started. So if I start with 2p and I take away 5, but then I add 5, I'm back to 2p. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
So you're making it more,
Complicated.
yeah. -5 plus 5. That leaves me with 2p over here. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other. 13 plus 5 is 18. How do you get rid of the 2? What's the opposite of multiplication?
Division.
Divided by 2. 2 over 2 is 1. Leaves you with 1p. Divided by 2.
Okay.
That's how we got
I did
equals
everything
9.
right. I just didn't.
So you keep wanting to say, you keep wanting to do this. Add the opposite. You know what I'm saying? That's what you would do if you had this. Let's say you had 6 minus 5. The answer is going to be 1, right? But since I said in algebra you don't actually subtract, you add the opposite. That's how you get 1. Well, you're trying to apply that to this. No. Whatever they've done to the letter, undo it.
Okay. And then I got it.
And by the way, those of you that act like you don't know who Carrie Underwood is, if you just tune in don't even have to watch the football game, but at 8:15 on a Sunday night, there she is. Sunday night
I
football.
know who she is. She sings national anthem.
She's done that before too. Yeah.
Is she really?
You do 25 on the board.
All right, here we go. 25, d over 5 plus 13 equals -10. Keep working.
What number do we have to go through?
Yep. 153, bud.
Okay.
What?
D
Oh, just finish one.
over 5 plus 13. If you are getting started and you're like, man, I don't even know if I'm doing the first one right. How do I get rid of the 13, Brett? It's positive 13, so I undo it. Subtract 13. So on this side, I'm left with d over 5 If I subtract 13 from this side, I must subtract it from listen, signs are the same. Negative 10 minus 13. Negative 23. How do I get rid of the 5? I got D divided by 5, so no, they've already divided D by 5. I got to undo it. What's the opposite of division? So I'm going to multiply this by 5. That leaves me with D, multiply this by 5, negative 115. I see what you did there.
I see what you did there.
Brett, see this? When I multiply this by 5, which is 5 over 1, that's how I just get D. That's how it undoes the division. Yes?
20. How do you get number 27?
Okay, 27, kind of the same thing. And what I had up there before, Kiara, how are you going to get rid of the negative 21?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? What's the opposite of negative 21? Okay, so negative 21 minus T over 3. So to get rid of this guy, because I want to narrow this down to all I have over here is T, right? First thing I got to get rid of is what's attached here. It's a negative 21. So Noah is not going to start thinking some add the opposite stuff. He's just going to say, if I have negative 21 and then I add 21, that gets rid of that 21. It's gone. All I'm left with over here now is negative T over 3. And then he says, since I added 21 to this side, no, you're acting like you're confused. If this is the number line, and this is 0, and out here is negative 21, how do I get back to 0? Add 21, right? So that's the goal here. Get back. I got nothing over here except the T term. Negative 6 plus 21. Negative 6 plus 21. Signs are different. Find the difference. What's the difference between 6 and 21?
7, 16. Wait, no, I was 16. 15. No,
15. Negative 6 and 21. The difference is 15. Which one has the higher sign? Which number, which absolute value was higher? The positive number or the negative number?
21.
1. So the answer is going to be, if I take plus 21 over here, positive 15. How do I get rid of the 3? Multiply by 3, or should it be negative 3? Let's say I'm dividing by positive. Let's say I'm dividing by 3, so I'm going to multiply by 3, okay? If I multiply by 3, that gives me negative T over here still. You understand? Because I'm multiplying by positive 3, so now I still have negative T. If I multiply this side by positive 3, I've got 45. Now, is negative T what I'm looking for, or is T what I'm looking for? So how do I fix that? If I've got on this side negative T equaling 45, what would positive T equal? Negative 45. Because I can multiply both sides by negative 1. Who asked me that? Listen, that's about as complicated as it's going to get for you tomorrow. Because you got to do 2 steps. You got to undo 2 things, right? And they got a negative thrown in there. This right here, 27. If you can do 27, you understand 27, as far as the solving section of tomorrow's test, you're going to do great. 2 steps, got to get rid of this, then you got to get rid of that. They got a negative thrown in there. Yes?
So since it was negative T, that's what made negative 45.
Well, since this was negative T, and I want to know what positive T is, I'm going to multiply this by negative 1.
Yeah.
Because -1 times -1 gives me +1. And since I multiplied this side by -1, I got to multiply that side by -1. -45. Yes? All the way to 33? What was yours?
How did you get 23 on number 20?
Because -10 and -13 combined together is -23.
Okay.
Because the signs are the same. No, if the signs are the same, great. Just put them together and use that sign. 33 there, Casey. It's a triangle, and I'm looking for area. So the first thing I'm going to do is not be lazy. And even if I have to write this 100 times, I'm going to write that down. And then they tell me that the base is 5 and the height is 8. So what's the area? 1/2 times 5 times 8. Easiest thing for me to do here is to take half of 8, 4 times 5. Now the biggest key here for Zacchaeus is he's not just going to write 20 for his answer to number 33. He's going to write 20 inches squared. Or SQ.
That's so much work though.
Right, Zacchaeus. Yes, David.
I need help on 37.
37. Okay? 37 is a inequality. Or you need help with the solving or the graph? 96 greater than or equal to, let's see. Did I write that correctly? All right, I need to get C by itself, David, so Cameron, help him out. I want to get C by itself. What do I got to do with this -12? Add 12. David, if I add 12 here, on this side, all I have is C. I did not multiply or divide by any negative. I just added 12. So this sign's going to stay like it is. I got C on this side plus 12. What's 96 plus 12? So what's the answer? Or if you'd rather, or David, we're looking for what C is, right? So right now it's written backwards. So if it helps your brain process this better, just rewrite it like this. C is less than or equal to 108. I didn't change anything. I just wrote it where, what is C? See that? C is less than or equal to 108. That's the same thing as 108 is greater than or equal to C, but I want to know what C is, so I rewrote it like that. You see this? See these two? I need you to see they're the exact same thing. See the less than or equal to pointing towards C? Less than or equal to pointing towards C. C is less than or equal to 108. Does it fit? What's 108? If I put a 108 in here, what's 108 plus -12? Equal to 96. Right? It says C has to be less than or equal to 108. So let's say C was 107. That should work too. What's 107 plus -12? 95. 95 is less than 96. Anything you put in there that's less than 108 or equal to 108 fits that solution. You know how to graph it? Look, if you were doing one like this on a test, it goes all the way up to 108, you certainly wouldn't make a number line and have a 1, right? Right? It's less than or equal to 108. You would do something like this. This is 0, this is 50, this is 100, and then you could go something like this. Make sure the dot's solid. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Or you can even start your number line at 105 or something, 106, 107, 108. Make sure it's solid if it's an equal to. You know, remember that? If it's just less than or greater than, it's an open dot. If it's less than or equal to is a solid dot for your graph. Keep them coming. We still got 11 minutes left. Noel, 29. Your class is making fruit baskets and selling them to raise money for a charity. The supplies cost $26. The baskets sell for $7 each. What am I going to let X equal? What is it that I want to know? There's something I don't know. How many baskets did you sell? So I'm going to start with the unknown. X is the number of baskets. Staying with me here? Please, everybody pay attention. Why did I write this? Because if I look at 29, if I take away all, wait, what number is it? Oh. Yeah, if I look at 29, if I take away all the other information and I go to the bottom line, they want to know how many baskets did your class sell. That's what I want to know. Obviously, I don't know. Now, let's tackle the things I do know. You're going to sell each one for $7. You spend $26 on supplies. Your profit ends up being $100. I always like to start with, what am I going to end up with? Something's going to equal $100. My class made $100. Each one of these baskets I sell cost how much? $7. Watch. $7 for each basket. How much did I have to spend to get these baskets made? Am I going to add that or subtract that from my... I'm going to sell each basket for $7, but don't forget, you have to subtract $26 because you had to spend that to make the baskets. You sure? There's my equation. All I do is get rid of the 26 and divide by 7. Add 24 or 26.
18 baskets.
I got 7x over here. Add 26. Divide both sides by 7. We sold 18 baskets. Let's start again. I went to the bottom of the paragraph. I said, what is it that I don't know? I don't know how many baskets. What do I do know? I'm going to end up with $100, and each basket I sell gets me 7. Subtract the 26 that you had to pay for the supplies. Bella, 36. All that information. Oh, man. 36. Here's what some junior high kids do. Ready? Yeah. Oh, I don't know. They read like the first few words and they look at the whole, and they're like, I don't want to figure this out. Exactly. You got to quit that. You're not second grade. Ready? You're standing in line for concert tickets. Something that some of you would do. I personally probably wouldn't do it. Unless Johnny Cash came back to life or something. Hey, all right. Or Elvis. All the rumors that Elvis is still living, if it was true and he came back, I'd probably stand in line for the tickets.
Can you play that? Would you stay in line for 1,000 hours?
There's no way Elvis would do that.
That's not even possible.
1,000 hours? No.
No,
All right.
Dad would.
Nobody's
No one would.
No man.
No one would for
All right, here we go. We're running out of time. You stand in line for concert. The ticket window is at street level at the middle of one side of the building. Building is 30 feet long and 20 feet wide. I'm reading this and I'm like, wait a minute. At first I thought this was going to be a how much something costs type of problem. But now I'm starting to think it's a geometry problem.
Yeah.
Because they're starting to tell me how far I am from the building and all that stuff. So I'm going to go to the bottom line before I even finish. Ready? How long is the line? Now I know it's a geometry problem. Right? So let's go back. I am, the ticket window is 30 feet long and 20 feet wide. The line extends from the ticket window around the corner of the building all the way to the next corner of the building. How long is the line? That means I got to bring my artwork into play. Here's a building. Some 30 feet long, 20 feet wide. The line extends. It says the line is in the middle of the building.
Yeah, but which side?
It's 30 feet long and 20 feet wide, and it goes around the corner all the way to the next corner of the building.
Why? It doesn't tell you which.
So actually, from here
It's 15. You're 15 plus 20. And then
this is all 30, and this is 20. The building's 30 feet long, 20 feet wide. I'm standing in the middle. The line wraps around the building to the next corner. How long is the line?
35.
35 feet.
But just 2 foot distance.
Unless
Then,
I was standing on this side of the building,
see.
then it would be 10 plus 30. Let's do that again. Here's my building. They told me the building was 30 by 20. And they told me that the line started in the middle of the building. Stay with us here. And it extended all the way around the corner to the next corner. If I was standing on this side of the building, 15, because it's half, plus 20, 35 feet long is the line. If I stood here, it's 20 feet wide, so this would be 10 plus 30, 40 feet long, depending on where you're standing. Come on, we only got 4 more minutes. Throw them at me. Jordan. 30 or 31? All right, how do you find the perimeter of any triangle? Add them all up. So, I got 3 sides. They told me 2. They also told me, Jordan, what the perimeter is. The perimeter is A plus B plus C, and they told me the perimeter is 11, and then they gave me 2 of the sides. What? One's 5 and the other one's 2. I got to find out what the third side is. I got 5 plus 2, so I got to subtract 7 from both sides. Third side is going to be 4.
Okay, I thought that's how you did it.
Oh well.
Very good then.
Yes.
That's really good. Well, I have a water bottle in my locker.
Yeah, but you know we're leaving in like 3 minutes. You're not going to make it?
And there's a water. Run, Forrest, run.
Let's go. 3 minutes. Make sure you're ready to be successful tomorrow. Brett,
Can you do 35?
35. They want to know the area of the rectangle. What's the base? 12. What's the height? Is the height 10? So I'm not going to do it on board because you and I are good at mental math. What's 12 times 10? What's half? Yep. 60, but make sure you got the right label, square yards.
You remember the first 4 names that we had, the first day for algebra?
The what?
The 4 names that we had. First problem we had to solve.
Oh, it was like Ben.
Bob, Kelly, Justin, and Tim.
No.
Yeah, that's gonna stick with me all year.
Really?
Yep.
Jordan,
You'll forget by tomorrow.
cut. 31. What's the perimeter of any rectangle? Yep. Please stay quiet. Now more than ever, you need to stay quiet. We're down to less than 2 minutes. P equals 2L plus 2W. What information did they give us? They gave us the perimeter, and they give us one side, right? What did they say perimeter was, 28? They gave us the 28, and they gave us the width. 2L plus 2 times 6, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I got 28 equals 2L plus 12. How do I get rid of the 12? Subtract both sides. 16 equals 2L. What's L equal? Divide them both by 2. So the length of that rectangle must be 8. Is there anybody that didn't get done with page 153? Because we've done over half of them on the board. I hope you're, if not done, just about done. Again, if you feel pretty solid about solving, that's going to be the majority of the test. If you're really good at that right now, confident, you know you're going to pass the test.
Nope.
How do you get a B? Probably like this, ready? Be able to solve problems and use your formulas for perimeter and area. How do you get an A? Be able to solve problems, do the formulas, which you write them, don't be lazy. Write the formulas down and then plug the stuff in. How do you get an A? And then at least be able to translate a smaller story problem. How do you get 100? You get it all down pat.
What if you accidentally make a little mistake?
Well, Kara, if you accidentally make a little mistake, you get points taken off.
So you
And
can have it all down
guess
pat
what,
and you have a
Kara?
little
If you
mistake.
get a few points taken off, but you're still always doing what you're supposed to be doing, you end up at the end of the 9 weeks with a good grade.
How did Bob do it?
Because you got your homework done,
You
Want to
know,
be the end of the 9
and
weeks.
Mr. Franken always makes sure that there's enough layups that if you get the basics, you're gonna pass. Make sense? You know what I mean by layups? Like, hey, there's enough problems on this test, if you just get the basics, you'll get enough of them right to pass the test. Then, how really well do you know it? How you go from B to A. Casey says, let's get out of here.
Yes.
Amen.
Mr. Frank just.
Oh, yeah.